Hi, guys. Thank you for stopping by. My name is Natalie Dare. I was diagnosed with lupus at the beginning of the pandemic. So, this space used to be all about sustainable living, but I have since turned it into a conversation around lupus and chronic disease as well as mental health. So, if this is your first time here, welcome. Today, I want to talk about some of the early symptoms of lupus that many people experience before they find out for sure that they actually have a chronic disease. I myself experienced many of those before I was officially diagnosed. Before I get started, I want to be clear in saying that there isn't just one way of experiencing lupus. Everybody experiences it very differently and very uniquely. We don't all have the same symptoms. So some of these items on this list may not necessarily pertain to you and your symptoms, and that's perfectly okay. The first symptom of lupus that I ever experienced was fatigue. Those of you who've been around for a while know that I'm a busybody, okay? I've always been that way since I was a kid. I have a lot of energy, I have a lot of creativity, and I like to get busy. I like to get things done, I like to move around. I used to work out 6 days a week before I got lupus. I just love being physical, being active, and moving. So when lupus came, I noticed that my energy level all of a sudden was like non existent. It took a lot of energy for me to get moving. And granted, lupus came right after I gave birth, and while I was still like managing life as a new mom with an infant, which naturally is going to come along with some tiredness. So it was hard for me to distinguish between the two. Like, was I tired because I was a tired mom with a new baby? Or was I tired because something else was going on? At any rate, in hindsight, what I would say to you if you're just now noticing some of these symptoms is that if you notice a drastic change in your energy level, it's probably a good idea to talk to a doctor and not just write it off by thinking, oh, it's because I'm a new mom or "Oh, it's because I'm working a lot." It's always good to check with a doctor so they can make sure and tell you whether it's actually normal or if it falls outside of the normal range. Sometimes that tiredness for me showed up as muscle weakness, so things that I used to be able to lift before, I wasn't able to physically lift anymore. I used to lift weights before I got lupus, very heavy. When I went to the gym, more times than not, I was lifting weights. So me not being able to actually lift like I used to lift, that to me was very concerning because again, I've been into fitness for many, many years. I got into it when I went to college and it just became a lifestyle. So for me to not be able to lift, for me to feel tired all the time, exhausted and lethargic, that was definitely a red flag. Okay. Next, fever. For those of you, again, who are not new here, you know that being diagnosed at the beginning of the pandemic was one of the most challenging things I've ever had to go through because some of the symptoms of lupus are also symptoms of COVID, like having high fevers. My fever was so high that my doctor put me on quarantine because she thought that I had COVID at the time. Nobody knew what COVID was when it first started. So having high fevers is definitely a red flag. If for no reason your fever starts running high, and mine was like very, very high. So I'm not talking 99 degrees or 100, I'm talking over 100 degrees. So if all of a sudden you're constantly warm and constantly cold and constantly feeling feverish, you definitely want to check that out. That's definitely a red flag. Next, joint pain. If all of a sudden you go from being physically active, physically healthy, not having any body pain, to having joint pain. And if you've never had joint pain, you will notice when you start having joint pain because all of a sudden the places where where you naturally would bend your finger, bend your wrist, all of that will start hurting. And as you know, you have to bend your joints to be able to grab things, to do anything, brush your teeth, brush your hair, put your shoes on, put your clothes on. All of that requires joint movement. So if your body feels physically sick because you're moving it and physically in pain because you're moving it, if your joints hurt around your feet, around your hands, sometimes even your neck, your back, then that should tell you something is wrong. So definitely get that checked out, okay? That's a red flag. Skin lesions. That's a red flag. Number 4, any drastic changes with your skin should get your attention. Don't just assume that it's because you need to moisturize. Don't just write it off as like something natural that's going on that's going to go away. If you're noticing any skin lesions that are not healing as quickly, or that seems to really leave a dark mark after they heal, especially after you've been in the sun, you definitely want to get that checked out. If you used to have clear skin and all of a sudden you're having all these blemishes on your skin and you don't know what's going on with your skin, any drastic changes with your skin, you should definitely get that checked out, either by a dermatologist or go to your regular doctor to get the ball rolling. And lastly, number 5, any sort of rashes on your skin. So lesions are one thing, but rashes are entirely separate from lesions. So with rashes, all of a sudden your skin feels dry. All of a sudden your skin feels itchy. And all of a sudden it feels like there's no amount of butter, cream, lotion, oils that you can put on your skin that will not make your skin feel itchy. So all of a sudden your skin is just itchy. It feels like a sweater that is low quality and that irritates your skin. And it's hard to feel comfortable. Sometimes that skin issue can show up on your face. For a lot of people, they experience a rash on their face, around their cheeks and their nose bridge. It kind of looks like a butterfly effect on their face. And although that's a very clear distinguishing symptom of lupus for most doctors, when that rash, however, shows up in other parts of your body, doctors often assume that it's a dermatology problem. They don't assume that it's a lupus problem unless it shows up as a butterfly shaped rash. I personally was having a lot of rashes on my legs and on my hands, but because he wasn't on my face, doctors didn't quickly recognize it as a symptom of lupus. So if you go from having perfect, beautiful, healthy skin to having rashes on your skin, whether it's on your face or elsewhere, coupled with some of the other symptoms that I've already noticed, then that should kind of tip you off. It should be a red flag that there's something deeper, more hormonal based, more serious happening with your body that requires examination. Lupus is so difficult to diagnose because its presentation is so wide ranging that it takes on average a person about 7 years to get accurately diagnosed. So it's really important that you be your own advocate when you're speaking with doctors about what you're experiencing, because many of them are not equipped to recognize it. And oftentimes, when doctors don't know, they're going to write you off as like being somebody that's crazy and that's making things up. And by then, your disease could progress. So it's important that you do your own research, be educated, and go to them with a list of things that you're experiencing so that hopefully they can put all of their good training and education together to give you an accurate diagnosis. What about you? What were some of the symptoms that you experienced early on when you were being diagnosed with lupus, or before you were diagnosed with lupus? Leave your comments in the box below. Until next time, thanks for watching. Bye bye.